to Facebook, and it should take like a minute or less. So. Okay, so we're good to go. So we're going to start now. So hi everyone. Welcome to the EBC Kids Storytime show today. Thank you all for joining us from all over the world. Today we have amazing kids from all over the world who are going to be sharing their stories with us. And yeah, so we have a fun time to hear the stories and why they like it and get everyone's take on it. So yeah, so hopefully it's definitely going to be fun. Each kid today who's joining us today is absolutely amazing. And they all have amazing stories that we're going to share with us today. So I hope all you guys are watching from wherever you're from are excited as I am. So yeah, I think we can begin. I'll just like to introduce EBC. So anyone who doesn't know, EBC Kids is a platform made for children to basically express themselves. We introduce practice of daily discipline and encourage kids to be themselves, which is the most important thing. And the techniques and practices used, whether it's arts and crafts, storytelling like this, and so forth, hopefully the kids can carry it into their teens and their adulthood and make them become a bright young individual in the world to help improve and make the world a better place. So yeah, that's the EBC Kids platform, and today we can begin with the program. So our first storyteller and speaker is going to be Aratrika. So she's going to be sharing a story with us. And yeah, hope everyone enjoys. And I hand it over to you.
So my story is written by Ruskin Bond. It's named The Photograph. I was 10 years old. My grandmother sat on the string bed under the mango tree. It was late summer and there were sunflowers in the garden and a warm wind in the trees. My grandmother was knitting a woolen scarf for the winter months. She was very old, dressed in a plain white sari. Her eyes were not very strong now, but her fingers moved quickly with the needles and needles kept clicking afternoon. Uh, Grandmother had white hair, but there were very few wrinkles on her skin. I had come home after playing cricket on the mead. I had taken my meal, and now I was rummaging in a box of old books and family heirlooms that had just the day been bought out of the attic by my mother. Nothing in the box interested me very much, except for a book with colorful pictures of birds and butterflies. I was going through the book, looking at the pictures, when I found a small photograph between the pages. It was a faded picture, a little yellow and foggy. It was the picture of a girl standing against a wall, and behind the wall there was nothing but the sky. But from the other side, a pair of hands reached up, as though someone was going to climb the wall. There were flowers growing near the girl, but I couldn't tell what they were. There were there was a too, but it was just a creeper. Sorry. I ran out into the garden. Granny, Granny! I shouted. Look at this picture I found in the box of old things. Whose picture is it? I jumped on the bed beside my grandmother, and she walloped me on the bottom and said, now I've lost the count of my stitches, and the next time you'll do that, I'll make you finish the scarf yourself. Granny was always threatening to teach me how to knit, which I thought was a disgraceful thing for a boy to do. It was a good deterrent for keeping me out of mischief. Once I had turned the drawing room curtains, and Granny had pulled a needle, and even though uh, sorry, Granny had pulled a needle, and a thread in my hand and made me stitch the curtain together. Even though I make long 2-inch stitches, which had to be taken out by my mother and and done again and again. She took the photograph from my hand and we both stared at it for quite a long time. The girl had long, loose hair, and she wore a long dress that nearly covered her ankles, the sleeves that reached her wrist, and there were a lot of bangles on her hand. But despite all this drapery, the girl appeared to be full of freedom and movement. She stood with her legs apart and her hands on her hips, and a wide, almost devilish smile on her face. "Whose picture is it?" I asked. "A little girl's, of course," said Grandma. "Can't you tell?" "Yes, but did you know who the girl is?" "Yes, I knew," said Granny. "But she was very wicked girl, and I shouldn't tell you about her. But I'll tell you about the photograph. It was taken in your grandfather's house about 60 years ago, and that's the garden wall, and over the wall there was a road going to town." "Whose hands are they?" I asked, coming up from the other side. Grandma squinted and looked closely at the picture, and shook her head. "It's the first time I've noticed," she said. "They must have been the sweeper boys, or maybe they were your grandfather's." "They don't look like grandfather's hands," I said. "His hands are all bony." "Yes, but this was 60 years ago. Didn't he climb up walls? Didn't he climb up the walls after the photo?" "No, nobody climbed up. At least I don't remember." "And you remember well, Granny?" "Yes, I remember. I remember what is not in the photograph. It was a spring day, and there was a cool breeze blowing. Nothing like this. Those flowers at the girl's feet, they were marigolds. Uh, it was a mass of purple. You cannot see these colors in the photo, and even if you could, as nowadays, you wouldn't be able to smell the flowers or feel the breeze." "And what about the girl?" I said. "Tell me about the girl." "Well, she was a wicked girl," said Granny. "You don't know the troubles they had getting her into. Fine clothes she's wearing. I think they are the terrible clothes," I said. "So did she. Most of the time she hardly wore a thing. She used to go swimming in a muddy pool with lots of mm, yeah, with lots of leaves, and a ride on the backs of buffaloes. No boy ever teased her, though, because she could kick and scratch and pull his hair out. She looks like it too," I said. "You can't tell by the way she's smiling. At the moment something's going to happen." "Something did happen," said Granny. "Her mother wouldn't let her take off the clothes afterwards, so she went swimming in them and lay for half an hour in the mud." I laughed heartily, and Grandma laughed too. "Who was the girl?" I said. "You must tell me who she was." "No, that wouldn't do," said Grandma, but I pretended I didn't know. I knew, because Grandma still smiled in the same way, even though she didn't have as many teeth. "Come on, Granny," I said. "Tell me, tell me." But Grandmother shook her head and carried on with the knitting, and I held the photograph in my hand, looking from uh, looking from where's the looking from it to my grandmother and back again, trying to find points in common between the old lady and the little pig-tailed girl. A lemon-colored butterfly settled on the end of Grandma's knitting needle and stayed there while the needles clicking away and made a grab at the butterfly, and it flew off in a dripping flight and settled on a sunflower. I wonder whose hands they were, whispered Grandma to herself, with her head bowed and her needles clicking away in the soft warm silence of the summer afternoon. The end.
Thank you, Aratrika. It was very fun. I liked your facial expression. To see a young kid like you, you're expressing even when you change your voice and stuff, which was awesome, awesome, awesome. I don't know if anyone has any questions. If not, we can move on to the next story. But yeah, it was really good. Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, get a thumbs up from me. Yeah. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Our next storyteller is going to be Nandini, and then followed by Nanditya. So Nandini, you can shoot here. You can.
Hi, I'm Nandini. I'm going to say the story I'm Unique by Anne Frank. So the characters in the story is a pot, a red pot and a blue pot. We can name that pot 1 and pot 2, a water bearer and a cook. Once upon a time, there was a water bearer. Every morning, he walked along a narrow, dusty path to collect water from the stream for his employer. He carried the water in 2 large clay pots that he hung on either ends of a pole. He placed this pot at the side of his neck across his shoulder. He would empty water from the pots into big storage vessels in his employer's house. The 2 pots were blue and red. The water bearer loved flowers, so he painted flowers on him. The blue pot was new and perfect, but the red pot was old and it had developed a crack in it. When the water bearer carried water, some water from the red pot always dripped, so he would reach his employer's house with 1 pot full of water and 1 half full. One day, the water bearer was talking to the cook at his employer's house. The cook said, "Throw away the red cracked pot. Soon it won't be able to hold a drop of water at all. Get a new one." The water bearer said, No, I love my pot. At least it holds some water." The next day, the water bearer was carrying waters from the stream into in the 2 pots. He heard the red pot whisper to him. The red pot said, "Throw me away. I'm not good for you. I have served you all these years, but now the crack on my side had made me useless. I'm ashamed of myself." The water bearer said, Why? Why are you ashamed of? When you carry water in me, a lot of water gets wasted. You put in all the effort, but at the end, you are left with only a little water. I am of no use at all. The water bearer said, Are you saying that you are not of any help? Yes, I'm sorry. I failed you. The water bearer kept walking on the pot. After some time, he stopped. He patted the red pot gently. He said, Silly, you have been paying attention. Look beside you. Oh, this is so beautiful, and I know you love flowers. He saw flowers on the side of the path. Look at the other side of the path. It is bare. I always knew you had cracks, the water bearer said. So I threw seeds on your side of path. The water leaking from your cracks helped the seeds to grow. These plants and pretty flowers are here because of you. You are not useless at all, dear pot. The red pot understood that everyone is not perfect but still valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandini. Interesting story. Yeah, so I think everyone else enjoyed the seas. Sanaya also enjoyed it. So yeah, interesting, very different, unusual. But yeah, next we'll have Nanditya. If you're going to speak.
Hi all, my name is Nandita Raja Kesi. I'm from Kerala, India. One day, the great Buddha was taking a walk in a monastery. He met a monk who wanted a new woolen shawl. The Buddha asked him, "What happened to your old shawl?" The monk replied, "It had become very old and worn out. So I'm using that as a bedsheet," replied the monk. The Buddha asked again, "But what happened to your old bedsheet?" "Master, the bedsheet got old and torn with use. So I made a pillow cover out of it." "What did you do with your old pillow cover?" asked the Buddha. My head had rubbed against the old pillow cover many times. The cover had worn out. It had a big hole in it. So I made a doormat out of it. The Buddha asked the monk, "Tell me, what did you do with your old doormat?" The monk replied, "Master, the old doormat threads were coming out. So I took the cotton threads and made a wig out of them. Later, I burned the wigs in the oil lamp." Buddha smiled, and the monk got a new woolen shawl. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. I loved your topic of picking the Buddha. I actually got a Buddha statue right here, which I was trying to grab, but I can't get it. It's a bit far from me. Yeah, awesome story and interesting to see you picked one on Buddha, yeah, which is cool. I love the Buddha. I'm not sure about everyone else, but definitely enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it. So thank you. Yeah, and I know you guys got a test later today, so good luck for your evening test. And hopefully you'll get full marks. And yeah, all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so next we're gonna have Zoya, who is going to be sharing her story. So here we go. I can see her now. Yeah. So Zoya, whenever you're ready to start, you can go ahead.
Okay. The name of the story is Fly, Eagle, Fly. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who was wandering around the woods. Then he came across a big tree. The big tree had a small nest. Inside the nest was a baby eagle. The farmer took it to his family and said we should train it as a chicken. Then the farmer's family invited their friends to see the strange bird. And then one day, a friend came and told the farmer, "This is not an eagle. This is not a chicken. This is an eagle." But the farmer said, "It is a chicken. It looks like a chicken. It eats like a chicken. It thinks like a chicken. And it is a chicken." But the friend refuses to agree with him. Then he went to catch the bird. And then he grabbed the bird and said, "You don't belong to the earth. You belong to the sky. Fly, eagle, fly." But the eagle did not fly. It went down and then went with the chickens to eat. And then the farmer said, "It is not an eagle. It is a chicken." But the friend still refuses. The next day, again the friend came to visit. Then he catched the bird and then he said, You don't belong to the earth, you belong to the sky. Fly, eagle, fly. But it still did not fly. And then the next day, early morning, the farmer's dog barked outside. And then the farmer went to see who it was. When he opened the door, it was his friend again. He said, "Give me one more chance with the eagle." And then the farmer said, "Okay." Then he went inside the house again and took the bird. Then he went up on the mountain and the friend was holding the bird. He said, "Hurry before the sun rises." And then when he finally went to the top, the farmer said, "It will not work. It is a chicken, not an eagle." But the friend ignored the farmer. And then he was busy telling about the sun, how it gives light every day to the eagle. Then the eagle stretched out its wings and flew to the sky. And then the farmer said, "You were right, this is an eagle." And then the friend said, "We should go back again to the farm." And then the farmer said, "Okay." The end.
Thank you, Zoya. It was a cool story. At least everyone knows now not to make a mix up between an eagle and a chicken. So I don't know how they're getting on that. Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. Yeah. And yeah, yeah, and yeah. So chicken and eagle, guys, don't mix it up. We know how dangerous or bigger eagle is compared to a chicken. So thank you, Zoya, for sharing your story. A lot of people, as you can see, giving the thumbs up, so they enjoyed it. Next, we're going to be moving on to Hasnika, who's going to be sharing her story.
Hello, I'm Hasnika from Hyderabad, India, and I'm gonna share my story. That is the Sheikh's White Donkey. I was traveling across the desert with Sheikh Mohammed ibn Musa and his caravan of 90 camels and 19 men. The Sheikh was a dignified old man and with fiery eyes and a wide beard. He rode a large white donkey, and his donkey was dignified too. The sheikh treated him as a friend and an equal. They were almost together all day. They slept at the same tent. I was carrying with me about 8 pieces of gold in a leather bag. I kept bag in my tent at night, and every morning I checked to see the pieces of gold were safe. On the 9th month, the bag was not there. I went at once to the sheikh and complained about the loss of my bag. He sat in silence for a few minutes, stroking his beard. At last, "The caravan will not leave this camp today. Before evening comes, you have to find your gold." After lunch, the sheikh went to his tent and closed the flap of the tent behind him. After dinner, my host slowly came off his tent and sent for me. He told me to sit up near him in front of his tent. Then he said, "Bring the men." All his men stood in a row in front of him. Then, when all the men were there, Sheikh spoke to Today, some trouble has come to my guest, this travel. Someone has stolen his bag of gold. Stealing is a crime, and to steal from a guest is 7 times worse. As no one from outside has been near our camp, the man who stole the bag is standing before me now. He thinks he can hide his crime, but I can find him out with the help of my wonderful donkey. My white donkey, he continued. It is not an ordinary one. He is a wise animal. My donkey cannot speak in our language, but I can understand his language. He will soon tell me who stole the bag. When he looked at his men and said, "Now I order each of you to go to the tent alone. Close the flap of the tent that no one see you except the donkey and God. Pull my donkey's tail. When an innocent hand touches his tail, he will be silent. But when the hand of he touches his tail, the donkey will speak to us all in his language. We will take the thief and kill him without mercy." As soon as he finished, he ordered the last man in the row to go into the first tent. He went in and came out. All others went in and came out. Nothing happened. I thought the donkey was not so wise after all. But Muhammad ibn Musa said to me quietly, "Don't worry. It's all right. You will get your gold soon." I wondered how. Musa, Musa asked all the men to stand in a line. "Hold your hands in front of you with the palms up," he shouted. Each man held out his hands. The sheikh then walked slowly to the road. He bent down and laid his face on the palms of each one's hand. I was amazed when he did this again and again. He came to the 12th man and laid his face on the man's palm. Suddenly he lifted his face, pulled out his sword, and shouted, "You dirty thief! Get that gold, or else I'll kick you at once." The man fell on his feet, begging for mercy. Then he jumped up and ran outside the circle of camels. He pulled a stone and came back with my ladder of gold. "Give it to the traveler," shouted Sheikh. The man put the bag into my hands, and I found that all my 8 pieces of gold were in it. Then the sheikh ordered 2 men to beat the thief. After a minute, I begged mercy for him and lost, and at my host's command, the men let him go. I was eager to know how Sheikh found my thief. Then next day, I asked him to explain. He looked at me and said, "You must not tell my men." "Certainly not," I said. "Well, yesterday I was in a tent. I took some mint and put it in water. When the water began to smell like mint, I put the donkey's tail into the water. The tail too smelled like mint. That evening, you remember, each man went into the tent and pulled the donkey's tail. All of them except the thief pulled the tail. His hand alone had no smell of mint upon it. I was all in praise for the Sheikh's wisdom. Thank you."
Thank you, Asnika. I can, just from telling your story, you can see the Sheikh is a very intelligent man, no doubt. Even the donkey couldn't figure that one out. So yeah, a very clever man, and good on for the person for saving his hand. I think that was a good move, and I think everyone enjoyed
Sorry,
it.
but I joined now.
No problem, no problem. Next, our next storyteller is going to be Sneha, and then Sastra. So here we go. Already smiling and excited. You can go ahead.
Grandma, Papa's wants
Shawl, written by Katani Gate, read by Rama Harish Logan. Grandma Boba lived quite far away on a very high mountain. She was always busy with one thing or the other. From morning till night, Grandma Boba had lots of sheep. They sucked food in coats and made them look like fluffy balls of fur. Grandma Boba took great care of her sheep. She gave them food on time and medicine when needed. Grandma Boba loved her sheep dearly. As the weather grew cold, Grandma Boba thought of knitting a shawl for herself, a nice bright red shawl she could tuck in while she's sleeping. When Grandma Boba shared all the wool of one of her sheep, she carded the wool and spin into the spindle. She put some beetroots in the boiling water and she dipped the wool into the color it red. When she dried it, it made balls of wool. She took out her needles and just started to knit. Her grandson came running to her. Grandma Papa, I want a red sweater, a bright red sweater. Grandma Papa needle began to knit. Tuk, 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 tuk. The nice red sweater was ready in no time at all. Grandma Baba's grandson was so happy to see his new red sweater. He gave Grandma Baba a sweet little kiss on her cheeks. Her grandson kite was so much warmer than any shawl for Grandma. Grandma Papa thought, let me make a green shawl this time. She shared of a wool from another sheep and carded it, and she spinded in her yarn on her spindle. She put boiling water in the spinach leaf. The wool turned into a nice green color. She dried before making balls. She was starting to knit. Then, when suddenly her granddaughter came bounding to her. Grandma Baba, you know what? I want a cap, a nice green cap. Grandma Baba's needles went on tuk 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 tuk. The wool cap was ready at no time at all. Grandma Baba's granddaughter was super excited to see her new cap. She put it on her head and she danced around. Grandma Baba was so happy to see that her granddaughter liked the warm green cap so much. Now Grandma Baba decided to make a purple shawl. She shared a wool from another sheep. Then she carded it into a spindle and spindled it and made a nice long yarn. She put some purple cabbage in the boiling water to color the wool in purple. She dried and made balls from it. She took out her 2 needles and just started in. Her daughter-in-law came to her. Mother Baba, will you please knit a purple muffler for me? And Grandma Baba's needle went tuk tuk tuk. A beautiful purple muffler was soon completed. Oh, Mother Baba, you're so kind. So lovingly you did make a muffler for me. Her daughter-in-law put on the muffler around her neck. She teared her eyes and Grandma Baba pulled her clothes and hugged. Shall I knit a bright yellow shawl this time? Grandma Baba wondered. Then she shared a wool of another sheep and carded it by spinning on her spindle. She made a nice long yarn. This time she put some turmeric in her boiling water. To make the wool yellow.
He dried before making bright yellow balls of wool. She just she took her needles out and started to knit. Her son came to her and said, Mother Baba, my hands freeze when I leave for very early in the morning. Will you please make a warm hand gloves for me? Why don't you use yellow wool? Grandma Baba needles worked on. Tuk, 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 tuk. A pair of yellow hand gloves was ready at no time. Her grandson put on them immediately and hugged Grandma Baba, lovingly blushed his cheeks on her. Grandma Baba was very happy to see her grandson with those yellow gloves. She thought to make a blue shawl now. Once again, she shared off wool from another sheep. After curling in her spin, a yarn and on her spindle. She put some indigo in the boiling water and dried on the blue. After drying it, she made balls from it. She knew Grandpa loves blue. I must knit for him as well. What should I make? She wondered. Just then Grandma came grumbling to her. He sat on the sofa and presently he said, you made something for everyone since so many days. This cold freezing my feet. Why don't you make a pair of wool socks for me? Grandpa Baba smiled secretly to herself and knitted needles on her to see what she is doing. And in no time, a pair of nice warm wool socks was ready. Grandma Baka took those socks from her with a frown, but as the woolen socks warmed his feet instantly, he forgot to be successful. He pulled Grandma Baba close to him and said, much better now. Grandma Baba saw that there were many colorful balls of wool left in her basket. She started to knit a shawl for herself from leftover wool. Tuk, tuk, tuk. Her needles worked. A big, nice shawl was ready in no time. Grandma Baba left for her family, but could be seen beautiful colored shawl for herself. Grandma Baba was about to wrap it around her shoulders when ba ba she heard bleating sounds. Grandma Baba went outside and see what happened. The poor sheep were bleating out of their folds. They didn't have any wool on their bodies anymore. To keep them warm, they shivered with cold. So Grandma Baba lighted a fire outside their folds. They pulled them close to her and patted them straight on their backs. As fire warmed them, slowly they stopped bleating. Grass matted all over the walls and fall with it. Grandma Baba came inside. It was so much colder now. She served sipping hot super to everyone. Then she told a story to her grandchildren to make them sleep. Then she climbed into her own bed and pulled the soft woolen shawl for everybody. She slept nicely and sound sleep with the warmth of her new shawl. Everybody loved Grandma Baba's new soft colorful shawl. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanaya. I see Grandma is very clever and very good person and very good at sewing. Thank you for sharing the story. I like your caption on your wall in the back, the sky is awake, so I'm awake, which is a good thing. So during the day, we shouldn't be sleeping. So yeah, So it caught my eye. Yeah, so that's good. It's cool. Yeah. So thank you for sharing us a story about and this intriguing grandma who's sewing everything and fixing people's socks. So thank you. Our next storyteller is Sastra. Yeah, Sastra, are you here? Oh, here we go. I can hear
When can I tell my story?
Hi, my name is Sahasra, and this story is about a boy and a village. Once upon a time, there was a village. Village has no rains for 5 years. One day, the rain has come to the village, and the sign said, with this magical flute, I'll play this flute and the rain will come down. And villagers give money to the saint. And saint climb the mountain and play the flute. First day he tried, the rain didn't come. Second day he tried, the rain didn't come. Third day he tried, the rain didn't come. Fourth day he didn't blow the flute. He threw away the flute and went away. A boy saw the flute and boy said, if this is a magical flute, anyone can blow it. The boy said. And the villagers give money to the boy, and boy climb up the mountain and he blow the flute. First day he blowed, the rain didn't come. Second day he blowed, the rain didn't come. Third day he blowed, the rain didn't come. 30th day the rain didn't come. 31st day, finally the rain has come. And villagers give so huge money to the boy. And villagers are really happy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Moral of the story is don't give up. Try and try and try until you reach the goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Sastra. That was really awesome, especially with the drawings. I loved it a lot. Yeah, it was really cool. Your drawings were good if you drew them, and I liked your roundup at the end for the moral of the story. And we should never give up, which is excellent, excellent, excellent. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sure everyone else enjoyed it, and yeah, keep up. I like to see more drawings. So yeah, it was really nice. So our next storyteller is going to be Shravani.
Thank you.
No problem. So our next storyteller is going to be Shravani, and yeah, so Shravani, you can go on ahead.
Yes. One. Yes, I can. Can I tell now? The Magic Key, written by Pedro Pablo Sanderson. Now that Martin was older, For his birthday that year, his father gave him a book without any pictures in it. Martin's father noticed his disappointment and told him, "Son, this isn't just any old book. It's a magic book. But to discover its magic, you will have to read it." Martin liked everything to do with magic. He started reading it. The next morning, his father asked him, "Have you found the magic key?" So, there was a key to find. The key would unlock the magic. Martin flicked through the book, but there was no sign of the key. He came back very annoyed. His father warned him, "You won't find like that. You have to read the book." Martin didn't have much patience, and he stopped reading the book, thinking his father was trying to trick him with his reading a bit more, just as Martin's teacher had suggested to his dad. A little later, his sister, Angelia, who was just a bit younger than him, asked him for the book so she could try reading it. After several days of trying to read it without great success, she appeared in the long, happily crying, "I have found it. I have found the key of the magic book." And she would not stop talking about all the worlds and places she had visited using that magic key. All the talk convinced Martin to resume reading the book. At first it was painful. There wasn't even one miserable picture in it, but gradually the story started springing to life, and the Martin got interested in adventurous prince life. Then suddenly he was there. The book itself was the key. It was true that whenever he opened it, he felt transported to its valleys and seas, and he lived the adventures of pirates, princes, and wizards as though they were himself, and his head and his dreams filled with adventurous whenever they got a chance. However, the best thing about that story was that from then on, in every new book, he saw a new key to 1,000 worlds and adventures. Martin never stopped traveling through those letters and worlds. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shravani. Very interesting story, especially the thing about the key. So I think it was quite a cool thing. So thank you for sharing. And I'm sure we're going to hear more stories with the other worlds, hopefully later on. So yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
I got a bit disconnected from the Wi-Fi. I had to rejoin.
No problem. No problem. Don't worry. Don't worry. As long as you're back. As long as you're back. So thank you. Next is Mahat Daksha, who's going to be sharing her story.
Once upon a time, there lived. Today, my title is about a crow, a fox, and a crow. One day, a crow was hungry, and one day a crow found a fine piece of cheese. She happily picked it up in her beak and wanted to enjoy it. The fox was passing by the same tree on which the crow was perched. The fox was at the cheese in the beak of the crow. It looked very yummy, and the fox wanted to taste it. But how can I get the cheese from the crow? Through the fox. If I simply ask the bird to give it to me, she will not let it. I must trick this bird. We decided to out with the crow with a cover plan, and he had in his mind. He started playing the crow. What a classic looking bird you are. I am amazed by your beauty, the fox exclaimed. Your fair color, your perfect shape, and your lovely beak make you one of the most beautiful birds, continued the fox. He went to trim words of practice for the crowd. The bird quietly listened to all the compliments from and felt very happy and proud. How the cowardly prouded with his sly plan. He said, "Oh, bird, I know you are very beautiful, but I just wanted to hear your voice. If your voice is as lovely as you are, then I must say you deserve to be the queen of all birds. No bird I in the forest can ever match your bird beauty and elegancy." The crow was flattered by all the practices that were showed open her. She wanted to prove that she indeed had a beautiful voice, and hence decided to be regent as the queen of all the birds. So the opened her mouth and let out a cry to show the fox how beauty her voice was. But no sooner had the bird opened her mouth and then the cheese dropped to the ground. The fox quickly picked up the cheese and said to the crow, "My dear crow, so your voice is good energy, but you surely luck it with goodbye." Moral of the story: beware of factories. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaksha. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very well done. Very well done. And good to see a fox and a crow getting along. So it was cool. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Next up is gonna be Kiati, and then Mira. Not too sure if
I'm going to tell you a story on Krishna and the path of devotion. There was a little boy whose mother was very poor and didn't know who the father was. So the mother wanted to send him to Patshala. There was no Patshala close by. It was very far, and to go there, he had to clear a very thick forest with wild animals. But the mother thought, just because I'm poor, I'm not going to not educate my son. He has to go. So one day, she takes him through the forest, meets the teacher, the Acharya. He says, okay, I'll take him for free. So he's admitted. Now, the problem is every day he has to cross the forest. So he says, Mama, I have to go to the teacher, but you're not coming. I'm alone. What will happen to me? There are wild animals. I heard them the other day. So the mother says to him, just to make him confident and not to be afraid, actually, she doesn't know. We tell such stories to kids, right? That's why it's always good to tell positive stories to kids. Don't talk to them about ghosts. Poor fellows will be frightened all their lives, even after they grow up. So she says, in the forest, in the deep forest, there's a boy who lives there, same size as you, a little bit dark. You know the Sanskrit word for dark? Krishna Varna, dark skinned. And he also has some peacock feathers on his hair. Sometimes he plays a flute, beautiful music. So when you go in, and if you at all feel frightened, just close your eyes and say, hey friend, come help me, I'm frightened. And he'll come. So the boy says, okay, does he have a name? This is supposed to be set in Kerala. So the mother says to him, he is called Unni, means a little boy. So the child goes through the forest and then he hears the animal and gets frightened and he shouts, hey, Unni, Odiva, come quickly because I am very frightened. So a small boy actually comes with a peacock feather and a flute in his hand and says, I'm here. Your mother told you, right? I'm here. Let's sit down. He plays a flute beautifully. He feels absorbed. Then he says, hey, it's time for you to go now. So he walks him up to the edge of the forest, leaves him there, and goes back. This happens every day. Every day, the boy comes back and reports his mother. Oh, today he played the flute. Oh, today we played marbles. Oh, today, and the mother thinks, laughing to herself. I told him a story and he fully believes me. Poor fellow. Anyways, good. At least he's going to school. So one day, there is a birthday of the Acharya, the teacher. So everybody is with different gifts. The boy doesn't have anything to take. His mother doesn't have anything. So she gives me a small silver katori and a little bit of milk and says, take it But please remember, this is only katori I have in my house. Give the milk, but bring back the katori. So the boy says, okay. He goes again through the forest and hears the wild animal make noise and calls for his friend Unni. Unni comes and says, what is this? He says, birthday of my teacher, and I'm taking some milk in the katori. Ah, can I taste? He says, no, 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 no. It's a gift. Eh, come on, give it. Playfully, he takes it from him and says, great milk. Take it anyway and give it to him. So they cross the forest and he leaves him and goes away. The boy goes to the teacher. There is big line of people giving big gifts and presents. Only this little katori, and that also he has to get the katori back. All the students make fun of him. Oh, he wants the katori back. Wow. So the master says, okay, doesn't matter. Go get a bucket. So they bring him a bucket. He pours the milk into it and says, take your katori. Boy says, but there's no milk here still. Oh, okay, pour it. Goes on till the whole bucket is full and there is still milk in the katori. So the teacher gets very suspicious and says, what is this? Do you know magic? Does your mother know Indaral or something? He says, no, I don't know anything. I just, no. But something has happened. Can you tell us what from the time you got it here? Something must have happened, he said. Nothing very significant. Ah, one. My friend, a little fellow who lives in the forest, the dark guy, he tried to sip the milk that I know. The teacher gets very angry. Why did you allow? And you're giving it to me? But I don't know. He just snatched it from me, and I think he did something because I don't know why this milk is not stopping. So the teacher laughs and says, this fellow is a liar. He's just lying. Something is wrong here. There is no such boy in the forest. There is nothing. He's just lying. Okay, can you take me there? He said, sure, innocently. I'll take you there. So he brings the teacher to the forest with the disciples following. They go there and he shouts, hey, Unni, come. My teacher has to see you. Come. No sound, total silence. No boy, no Krishna, no nothing, no flute. He gets very desperate. He says, they are calling me a liar. Please come. Then there is a voice that comes from the sky. Akashavini. It says, these fellows are not ready to see me. You are ready to see me. You are so innocent and so clear of mind you saw me. These fellows, they can't see me. They'll see me when they become clear and pure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiasi. Such an interesting story. I was looking in the comments, and someone said their grandmom used to tell them that story as well. And especially such an awesome topic on Krishna, and overall very well done in the story and your expression. And I'm sure whoever's watching this, apart from here on Facebook, also enjoyed it a lot. So thank you. Yeah, as you can see, everyone's giving you a thumbs up and hands up. So it was very good, yeah, and interesting. So next we have Mira, who is going to be sharing her story with us.
The lazy learns a lesson. Bittu Bear and Pintu Rabbit were close friends. Bittu was very lazy. He always slept in his cave. One day, while Bittu was sleeping in his cave as usual, Pintu came there. Bittu, please wake up and help me, Pintu cried. Hearing this, Bittu woke up. What happened? Asked Bittu. A tree has fallen on my house. Would you please help me to remove it so that I can enter my house? No, go away. I want to sleep, Bittu shouted. Pintu felt very sad. Dinku Monkey was seeing all this. I should help Pintu, he thought. Hey Bittu, there is a big honeycomb on the tree that fell on Pintu's house. If you help Pintu, you can drink honey, Dinku said. Oh, sure. Bittu ran to Pintu's house. Dinku also followed him. When they reached Pintu's house, the entrance was covered with the broken branches. Where is the honeycomb? Bittu asked eagerly. It is hidden under the branches. Remove them one by one and you will see it, Dinku replied. Bittu removed all the branches of the fallen tree and cleared the entrance. But there was no honeycomb there. You cheat! Where is the honeycomb? Bittu asked. You can take honey from that honeycomb. Dinku pointed to a big honeycomb on a nearby tree. Bittu was very happy to see it, so he climbed the tree and drank enough honey. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mira. Sorry, I was on mute there. Thank you for sharing the story. I can see everyone enjoyed it. Next is Parvati. The big bright smile. She's smiling your whole story, Mira.
Aditi is a careless girl. After coming from school, she always leaves her things carelessly here and there. One day she left her book open on her table and went to play. At that time, her little sister came there. She drew pictures in Aditi's book with a pen. When Aditi returned, she saw the pictures and started crying. Her mother came and comforted her. Be a good girl. Always take care of your books. Keep things in their proper places. Aditi learned her lesson. Now she keeps her books neatly before going out to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Parvati, for the awesome story, especially at your age, and you're smiling throughout Mira's story, which is so cool to see. So thank you, and thank everyone for joining today and sharing their stories. There's such awesome stories. The one about Buddha, then we had Krishna, we had the grandmother with the knitting, the crow and the fox. Such cool and interesting stories, and good to see you guys reading such fun things. Yeah, and such different topics. So it was really awesome, really awesome. If there's anyone else like to share anything, I don't think we have any more stories. I think everyone is gone. If anyone likes to say anything or share anything, please feel free. If not, we can end today's program. But from EBC, thank all you guys for sharing all your wonderful and amazing stories. Sanaya said it was so much fun. Yes, same here.
It is fun.
It was a wonderful and interesting session.
Yes, excellent.
This is
Very
so much fun, having so much together, having so much fun. This is our first time doing a father. It's so fun.
Really, I can see you enjoyed it. That's good. It's so good to see everyone's enjoying it. And yeah, we definitely have more of this to come. I think, if not, I think every month or every 2 weeks, we're going to have storytelling. And there's so much more. So apart from you guys, everyone else who's watching, EBC Kids gets involved with a lot of different projects. This is just one of it, the storytelling. There's arts and crafts. There's a whole lot of other stuff. Plus, we have once a month the Kids World talk show for all the top performers or stars of the week. So there's a lot of cool stuff. From my side, I'd just like to thank everyone for watching and joining us, and especially to all our amazing kids today who told such beautiful and amazing stories. This is all because of them. If I wouldn't be.
This is like so interesting thing to do, reading a story to other people and having fun more to each other and
Yes,
talking to each other is so much fun online.
Yeah.
That's no better than school.
Yeah. No, you're very right. Yeah. So from my end, that's a wrap. If anyone likes to say anything, please feel free. If not, we can end today's session. And I wish everyone a wonderful weekend, and bye-bye from my side.
Thank you so much for the session. I enjoyed a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you
Don't
for the
thank
session.
you
Bye.
guys.
Thank
You
you,
guys.
sir. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir. Bye.
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 Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.